Hi everyone, welcome to another video. So in this video and this series of videos that are going to follow, I'm going to be creating some educational content about if you want to buy a used car, but you don't really know how to approach the situation. Like, what do you look out for? Has the car been in an accident? Are there any hidden gremlins under the hood? All of these things I'm going to be addressing in these series of videos, so stick around. So the first video out of my series of 3 is going to be focused on the exterior of the vehicle. The second part of the series is going to be the interior inspection. And the third will be a test drive. So I'm going to be giving you the tools that you need to make an informed decision before buying a car in a process called a pre-purchase inspection. Let's get into it. So in terms of the first step in the process, how do you go about it? First thing you do is you meet the seller. And in them introducing the car, I generally try to stay quiet and let them speak and just listen to what they have to say. Then I tell them I'm going to go ahead and inspect the car. And is there anything I need to know? This is their chance to come clean and show, are they an honest person? So they will tell you, yeah, there's been an accident here, there's been a respray there. It gives some credibility to that person so that anything they tell you in the future, you can kind of believe, versus somebody that'll tell you, no, the car is perfect, it's got no problems. And with the information you're about to get in these videos, you will be able to tell if that person is lying or not. Now, what I generally start with is a walk around the vehicle. So I'll look around and try to assess the condition of the car. Is there anything that stands out immediately that does not make sense? Perhaps a misaligned headlight or certain panels in the car not lined up. I'm going to touch on each of these points, but I'll generally do a quick walk around. And the first thing that I will look for is over here is the logo of, in this case, this is a BMW. So the windshield will have a small BMW logo right here. So will every other glass around the car. So I will walk around the car and look, yep, that has a BMW logo. Does the passenger door have a BMW logo? Back door, rear windshield, and so on. So that really helps me understand if any glass has been changed. The second thing I'll do is, since I'm focusing on the windows, is over here, you might have noticed in the past, in this corner is a really long string of 17 characters that are letters and numbers combined. Now that is your vehicle identification number, or VIN number for short. And a VIN number, for lack of a better term, is like your car's identity. It's its phone number. It's something that is specific to this car around the world and will never be duplicated. So that number you would want to make sure exists all around the car to know that it's intact from the dealer. Now, why do you inspect this? Is because a lot of the time, used cars that have been in an accident, and they're very severe accidents, and repairing them is not an option, they will cut a car into pieces. And if the front's been damaged, they'll get the front of a similar car welded on, and Bob's your uncle. But the problem is, the front of the car, and the middle of the car, and the back of the car, and everything about the car has that VIN number. So if they weld the front of another car onto the car, you'll know. Now that VIN number exists right here next to the windshield. There's one on the B pillar. There's in the engine bay. In most cars, they have it behind the rear license plate. And it's also in the vehicle's ECU, the brain. We'll get to that. That's where everything about the car that makes the car work comes down to that one computer. The next thing I would look at is the bodywork. So I would go around the car and kind of look at every panel, how they align. There should be a nice, smooth, clean alignment all around the car that is parallel, equal on both sides. Do the bumpers match up nicely? If I'm looking at the doors right here, is this gap equal to that gap and the gap behind it? And do the gaps on both sides look like they're symmetrical? Under the car, every panel should align nicely. I'll then start looking at the color of the car. Is there a color difference? Does it look like the exact same color from start to finish? This gives an indication if certain panels were painted, and you would move your way around the car as such. Now, if you want to go that extra mile, I recommend picking up one of these. These are relatively inexpensive. You can get them for like 20 bucks or so. This is what they call a paint thickness meter. And this will allow you to go around the car and measure the thickness of the paint and compare that reading all around the car. Now, standard readings of these are around between 1 and 5 mils, 6 mil. That's relatively acceptable by dealer standards. Anything more than that means that that panel has had paint. Allow me to demonstrate. Going to the front of the car, I put this on the bodywork. That gives me a 5 mil. I make my way over to the door, put it up against the body, 6 mil. Back door, put it up against the thing, it just takes a few seconds, 6 mil. Now I go to the back of the car, put it up against the body. Here I've got 2 mil. This car is relatively in good condition. The paint is factory, there's nothing alarming about it, and I would make my way around the car. Now, if I want to drive the point home, and I want to make sure that this panel definitely hasn't been painted, I would look at, when opening the door, there's this thickness of the C pillar. We're looking at the back. This is what they call a C pillar. The B pillar is between the two front doors, and the A pillar is that part where the roof connects and the windshield is in between. So you got the ABC. Looking at each of those pillars, is there any paint overspray that, if assuming that this rear quarter panel was painted, paint would splash into this C panel thickness right here? So I would look at over here, wipe my finger up and down just to clean the area of any dirt. And I would look at, is there an overlap of new paint onto the factory paint? Now, in some cases, painters go the extra mile and remove all the weather stripping. So all of this rubber around and paint all the way in. It makes it a lot harder to tell if the car has been painted, but there'll always be little specks of dust or something that just lets you know that this is not factory paint. This has been resprayed. I'll then pop the hood, make my way over to the engine, and continue the paint inspection process. So as we said, we're inspecting the C-pillar back there. I would continue to look at the overspray that would be overlapping here, maybe on the hood, on this side of the engine, because generally a lot of the damage might come from the front. Just statistically, there's more frontal damage and rear damage than there is side, but don't quote me on that, but it's just from my learnings. Now with the hood open and the paint inspected, I'll just make my way in, turn on a flashlight, and look for leaks, anything that looks cracked. There might be a cracked hose. I would look for the coolant level, where the coolant level is. You can tell if the car is burning coolant or not. Another sneaky little trick is I tend to prefer inspecting engines that are dirty, because they will give you an indication if this car's been serviced. You're going to see handprints everywhere from a mechanic. When a car is filthy clean, you can't really tell, and it makes it a lot harder. So yeah, handprints will give you that clear indication how much this car has been played around with under the hood. Now, the last thing that I'll touch on, which is the most understated part of the car, are the tires. Think about it. Whatever car you have, as much power as you're running, the only contact between the car and the road is the tire. And not only the tire, just a small patch of it, what they call the contact patch. That's the part that actually physically touches the ground. So having really good tires from a reputable brand such as Pirelli, Michelin, Hankook, Dunlop, I can go on and on about really good tire brands. Stick to those ones. Please don't go cheap. This is your life. This is your car. It's your safety. So the tires should be in great condition, even wear all around. I'm carrying with me a coin, and the coin test allows you to see the depth of the water tracks in the middle of the tire. And you should be able to see at least 80% of the coin sticking outside the tire and only 20 to 30% actually going in. So the deeper the better. That means it's a newer tire, and the flatter the worse, because that means on wet conditions, you won't really have that much water dispersion to keep you safe and stable. You'll also want to look out for the size of the tires from the front and the back. The tires that are actually put on the car conform to what the dealer has approved for this car. There are digits on the side of the tire that tell you what the size of the tire is, and you can compare that to what the owner's manual tells you should be on the car. The last point about the tires is the date. So there are 4 digits that go on a tire that tells you when it was made. Those 4 digits are the week of the year and the year that it was made. So let's just say a tire came out in January of 2022. That will be 01/22. That will be week 1 of January. Week 2 of January will be 02/22, and so on until you get to 52 of 2022. That'll be a tire that came out last week of December in 2022. Gives you an indication of how old your tires are as well. So that completes the exterior of the pre-purchase inspection. Things to look out for from the outside at a beginner level. I don't want to make this too technical, although there's a lot more we can get into, but I want this video to appeal to the everyday person that just wants to inspect the car and have a bit better understanding of how to go about checking out a used car and if it's something that you should buy. So I want to thank you for watching. Stay tuned for episode 2 of this series where we get into the interior of the car. That's coming right up. And if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, comment. Helps me a great deal. So thank you very much once again, and see you on the next video.